Got the YouTube one. Hey folks, good morning. It is a beautiful Saturday morning in Florida. This is the weekend news in review, along with some of my opinions. I'm Troy Dooley, the Beachside CEO. And I tell you, it has been a phenomenal week in just in Main Street entrepreneurialism as a whole. Whether you're looking at that as the cottage industry, side hustle, gig economy, MLM, direct sales, affiliate marketing. I mean, the list goes on and on. When we look at 21st century Main Street business worldwide, this isn't just in America, although that's where we hang out. This is worldwide. We see this happening in the Mideast. We see this happening in Vietnam. I mean, it doesn't matter what emerging country you're in. We are seeing a grassroots Main Street movement, if you will, of people who say, look, we are done having to put all of our trust in other people, in other corporations. And that doesn't mean that they're just leaving the corporate world. It means they are taking more control and saying, look, we want to bring in some different income streams, if you will. We want to bring in some side hustles. We want to turn a hobby into a business and really go out there and explode. That's what we're seeing. That's what I'm excited about. Hey, I want to reach out first and foremost to my supporters. We could not do the shows. We could not be launching the new website if it wasn't for people that literally trust and believe in what our mission is, what we're trying to do. So Maple Street Biscuit Company, thank you for just coming alongside of us, letting us use your location more times than not. Not all the time are we at Maple Street, but they have really come in and said, look, man, we want you to hang out. We are all for the Main Street entrepreneurs. We're Main Street businesses coming together and collaborate. Hats off to them. Hats off to Freddie Sheets, who you guys know does all of my tattoo work down at Allen's Cool Ink in Destin, Florida. If you're coming down the Emerald Coast, if you're taking a vacation, you want to cover up, you want a piercing, you want a removal, you want something that's unique and original, you need to get a hold of Freddie over at Allen's Cool Ink because they are there. I mean, they take care of it from first time to last time. You want it on your skin or off your skin, they can take care of it. My family has trusted all of our artwork, most of our piercings with this family. Great folks over there. What else can I say? Also, shout out and a hats off, Rhonda and Brian Swan. Thank you so much for having me on Rhonda's show, Unstoppable Mama, this week. If you guys don't know about the Unstoppable Family, go check out unstoppablefamily.com. They were just down in Panama City. They were in Orlando. Panama City, you guys know, almost a year ago now, devastated by Hurricane Michael, and the Unstoppable Family cruised through there. The news down there did just a great story on them. They've got a brand new book tour they're doing on how to raise an unstoppable child. And I tell you, their beautiful little daughter is an entrepreneur all in her own right. It's got a clothing line. It's phenomenal. My hat's off to them. I had fun doing her show. Rhonda has been someone that I've mentored at a distance for like the last 13 years. So now to see her success, to know that I just a little bitty part of helping her in her businesses, that was so cool to me. And it was just an honor to be on her show. Let's look at some of the news that came out this week. Let me pop over here. I'm going to pop away from the actual push that we have over here on Facebook for a second. A lot of you guys have asked me, where is Advocare? My best buddy, Greg Sexton, called. I'm going to be getting on the phone with him and some of his people, I think, this next week, talking about this. But it's kind of gone silent. You know, first in I think it was in May that they announced, hey, we're going to eliminate direct sales. In July, that took effect. Now, the public announcement that came out from Advocare had to do with the fact of a private type of agreement or settlement, however we want to call this, with the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. We have heard rumors that the Federal Trade Commission is getting ready to release something on this. Have not seen anything whatsoever on it, but something that I want to look at. If I look at a timeline, in July, there is a federal case. I think it's still going on. It's been tweaked a little bit, but a federal judge threw out federal RICO charges against Advocare, and that case was basically thrown out. At the same time, the complaint was amended to go from charging a organized type of criminal activity at a federal level. And this is, look, I hate the overuse of RICO charges. There's just no reason for that, though. That was created probably in the late mid 70s against organized crime in America, whether it was the drug cartels coming in, Italian families, Chinese, Russian, doesn't matter. If it was an organized crime activity, then the RICO was to show that, hey, this was organized. This was something that was done in a way that was manipulative to harm people. I don't think any direct sales company, especially Advocare, had RICO in mind whatsoever. But this amended complaint now shows that they allegedly ran a pyramid scheme up to the month of July 2019. It's been amended basically because of what happened. Advocare was saying, hey, we settled somehow with the FTC. We're going to get rid of the MLM model. Now this law firm that's doing this is trying to show that it was a pyramid scheme. Never in the, I still don't believe that Vima was a pyramid scheme. Herbalife was a pyramid scheme. Advocare was a pyramid scheme. Are there elements of building a pyramid inside of direct sales? No more or no less than there are in the insurance industry. No more, no less than there are probably in corporate America when you look at the hierarchy of things. But any sales organization, real estate, insurance, if you've got managers and then you've got leaders and then you got people, it all has an element of a pyramid. When you look at the federal, or not the federal, when you look at the definition of what a pyramid scheme is, it's new money going in to pay people that were already in. New money pays old people. That's a pyramid scheme. It may be as easy as, hey, you give me $50,000 and I'm going to give you this beautiful, one of a kind. I'm only giving this one pin to you, and it covers up the 50 grand. You put the 50 grand in it, I'm going to give this back to you. That's a scam. Advocare, just like Vima and Herbalife and others, have proven that their products are well accepted into mass market, even though they were using a direct sales model. Don't know what's going to happen. We are staying on top of this because of just the amount of people that truly were hurt. I mean, think about it for a second. I've grown up. I am second generation direct sales. Had a mom in Mary Kay that was very successful. She was very successful in Tupperware. I've seen the success that happens. I personally have been in this business as a rep, successful since 1982. Before that, I was in some other affiliate programs. That's what we'd call them today, selling shoes, selling Christmas cards. I love sales. But in the network marketing, got in when I was about 18 years old and was actively building a team until 2010 when we went into what we do today with advising companies, communications, PR, stuff like that. So I understand the difference between a real business and not a real business. I understand wanting that dream of residual income. This is the 21st century. According to federal law, and now we're starting to see how some of the states are kind of tweaking stuff even worse, but according to federal law, direct sellers by name, along with real estate agents, this happened in 1986 in the tax code, we are listed as independent contractors. That's what we are, but then subcategorize that underneath the IRS code, and we are statutory non-employees. We're otherwise known as captive agents. We sign a policy and procedure. It's an agreement that we say we're going to operate in a certain way in the direct sales model. We always want to dream. This has been the dream of the Main Street direct sales type of model, has always been, hey, you can have generational passing income. And the reality is, we've seen that in the old companies like Amway, like Primerica, like Mary Kay, like Legal Shield. There's been Shackley, even Watkins Products, Avon. A lot of these companies, that truly is, they have sustained their business model. In current years, that hasn't been the truth. For whatever reason, whether companies they get into the gray area a little bit, whether regulators overreach. I mean, I've heard both sides. Whether it's because we've allowed the healthcare claims and the income claims to go unchecked, that is a possibility. But whatever the reason, the idea that you can have residual income forever in these companies was shattered with what happened at Vemma and with what happened at Advocare, two companies that no one ever saw the government latching onto, at least in the Vemma model, like they did. And we're still to find out what they did at Advocare. And we never dreamed that Wall Street would go into Herbalife the way they did. Now, they had a lot deeper pockets. They were able to weather that storm, and I think that was awesome. But I want you guys to understand, who watch this, that these things can take a long time to come to fruition. I don't think these are pyramid schemes. I think people go into them eyes wide open. I think what we have come to, this is my opinion, I think we've got some attorneys that have created their own gig economy, their own cottage industry, where they go in looking for companies that they think has deep pockets, might settle out of court, and when those companies fight back like Advocare did, then it just opens up a ball of wax. Once that gets into the public light, then you get eyeballs on you that you don't necessarily need on you, whether that's Truth in Advertising or some other advocacy group, or whether it's the regulators in and of themselves. No matter what the case, this is what happens. Second one that we want to cover before we get into some cool stuff is Vemma. I'm hoping this ends the saga at Vemma. BK Borrego, his whole family over there, went through a living hell. I want you guys to envision this for a second, because this is how this transpired, and this is what makes this so tough. You go in on a Friday night, people are jamming, it's exciting, everybody's pumped, the company is still growing, people love your products, you're opening new markets, and on Monday morning when you're driving to work, you get the phone call that says, hey, U.S. Marshals are here along with the Federal Trade Commission, and they have subpoenas to take full control of the company. They are calling us an alleged pyramid scheme. Shatters your world. In BK's case, if you guys have ever followed BK Borrego, he's got beautiful kids. He's a single dad, long, deep roots in the Phoenix area, let alone in direct sales. He's second generation with his mom and dad. They literally hit him as if he was a drug dealer, stopping and taking full control of all of his personal bank accounts, not just the corporate bank accounts, locking it down to where he literally had to go to them to get bread on the table. None of his credit cards were working. He could spend no money. Now, I don't want to dramatize this. I just want you to realize that truly is what happened. And it took him a long time to be able to just get enough money, not have to borrow money, just to get the kids fed and to make sure that everything was going right. Now, we can all debate on all of the rest of it. That was somewhat of an overreach. He's not known as anybody that has never faced the music whenever there's been an issue. He's had other issues with regulatory agencies, faced them, corrected them, paid the fines. But what this did was, here's a company that's upwards to, I think at that moment, $350, $400 million a year in sales. That was devastating to the residual income of all the reps because it shut it off. It's terrible. I mean, it's terrible no matter who you are. Number one rep in that company also was charged, ended up paying $1 million fine, had to sell his wife's dream home in order to pay that fine. Long story short, the FTC on Friday made the announcement that they were making a final payment of $2.2 million back to all of the affiliates who they classified lost money. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let's pull this up. Bear with me here. I'm going to put my glasses on. I want to see if I can tell you how many that will be. The settlement, this will be approximately 28,224 former affiliates, promoters of VEMA will be getting on average a check for $78.93. You'll have 60 days in which to cash those checks. If you don't cash them at the end of 60 days, if your address is different, if you don't get them, you're just out of luck, okay? You got a 60-day window in which to cash that check. If you don't cash that check, and I don't know what the percentages are of how many do or don't, that money goes back into, I'm assuming, a victims fund, or it goes back to the FTC. It does not go back to VEMA. It goes back to the fund that was created to take care of all this stuff. So it's something to think about. Hey, I want to get into something that I talked about this on Unstoppable Mama's show this week, and I'm going to cover it here in a little bit more detail, because I think with the news that I've shared today, this all comes down to one thing: trust. Since about 2008, we've gone into what's called the post-trust era. When you look at 2008 to 2010, 2011, you see a 24 to 36 month buildup. This started in probably the fourth quarter of 2007. Wall Street started to crumble here in America because of the mortgages, the screwed up way they were doing some of this stuff, the real estate. People on Main Street were making $50,000 a year, able to buy multi-million-dollar homes because of all the trickery that was going on and the way that stuff happened. All that stuff crashed. We put our faith, Main Street put their faith in Wall Street. Wall Street put their faith in the government, and all of a sudden this thing totally collapsed. Largest financial companies, the largest banks, largest mortgages, largest escrow and title companies, all this stuff started to hit. And then you look at how this permeated across the globe. All of a sudden we had the Arab Spring. All of a sudden we saw Greece go bankrupt. We see Italy in some issues, and today, some 9-10 years later, what we end up with is this post-trust era where everything that has worked in the past has been turned on its head. Sadly, most marketers don't realize this. Free is not a good word to use anymore, because everyone has realized nothing's for free. There's no interest free. There's no penalty free. Anything free freaks people out. But yet we still see this in marketing, and people think it works when you look at the bigger picture, it doesn't. So there's a lot of little bitty tweaks that we need to know. But there's 5 what I call pillars that in all the studying I've been doing on, is trust just a intangible that we like to use, or is trust truly a foundational principle in building any type of business, any type of relationship? I've come to the conclusion that if you're going to build any type of business, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're building a small sales team, whether you're in real estate, doesn't matter. If you're trying to get to the end goal of saying, I want to be able to persuade you that what I have is going to take care of your desire or your need, then you better build trust. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it. All this old cockamamie school stuff that we've been taught about, hey, if you just use the Ben Franklin close, if you just use XYZ, if you lead them in a certain way, it will happen. You can throw that out the window. Everybody is so used to that now. They just boom, just like that. If you're not authentic, if you're not transparent, if you're truly not caring about the person, this is what's going to happen. Now, don't mistake my words. I'm not saying that you can't go out and build sales funnels and move products to end users who need them. Not saying that at all. If you're out of the equation and all you want to be is a conduit and a funnel, you can do that. Nobody's going to care. You're not going to be in the trust factor, if you will. Here's what will happen, though. If the company whose product that you're actually pushing on people fails them, and they in any way find out that you personally were involved, you've just lost your trust just like that. Pillar number 1 is you. You are that first pillar. And most of the time, we don't build out the trust that we're looking for, because inside We don't even trust ourselves. We look in the mirror and think, oh my gosh, I'm scared to death. I'm a poser. I'm not anything like I pretend to be on Facebook, on Instagram, or any of this. We get scared. That's okay. Here's what you have to do. Figure out who you are. What's the one thing that you actually do well? And make that your new battle cry. Push through the fear. You're still going to have fear. Anybody that tells you we never have fear, it's not true. Higher up on the totem pole you go, the higher up in corporate America you go, I don't care what it is, there's fear. When it was just you and your significant other, you didn't have too much fear. You knew, hey man, if I lose my job today, I can get another one. I mean, crap, it's okay. We can go move in with mom and dad. That stuff starts to change the first time you have a child, and then a second child, and then a third child. All of a sudden your wife says, hey, I'd rather stay at home than be at work because I want to take care of my kids. A lot of things change there. You're a blue-collar worker and you're out on an electrical pole and you get electrocuted or you fall off or whatever and you can't work. Things shift. So you need to, number one, you've got to look at you. You've got to boldly move past those limiting beliefs, knowing I'm going into uncharted territory. It's kind of like the old Star Trek. I'm going into the unknown, okay, where no one's gone before. That's you, but you got to push through that. You got to drive it, okay? You've got to get real with yourself. I suggest writing it down and say, look, I know I'm scared, but I know that I'm talented. I know I'm powerful. I know I can move through this. Brian Underwood taught me this. You have this I am statement. This is your creed. This is what you're pushing through. Then you've got to push through that. You've got to roll with it. That's the name of the game. You can't hold back from that. Second pillar, and I think this is good, it's them, those you're serving. See, too many times in our own storyline, in our own sales funnels, whatever we're putting together, we try to make us the hero. I see this mostly on websites where they always talk about them. They always talk about their about us. They talk about their history. My great-grandfather started this company. We are 6 generations. Who cares? What they care about is today and how you are going to help them. What's their life going to look like after they work with you? That's the key. You've got to put your focus totally on them. My good friend Tyler Reagan calls it life-giving leadership. It's not servant leadership per se. Are you literally pushing them to where they need to go? Because if you do that, you're going to win. Zig Ziglar used to say, you help enough people, then the money comes. That's the name of the game right there. Second thing you've got to do under that is you've got to listen to your haters. Plain and simple. I'm going to throw an example in here. iMarkets Live. iMarket Live had a giant, phenomenal convention last weekend in Dallas and unveiled a brand new image, a brand new everything. They went from iMarkets Live to the IM Academy. Stellar branding job, stellar push forward. I mean, the team that they hired to do this, second to none. Powerful. The question is, does it change anything? According to Truth in Advertising, because they named me in this report, I answered. Truth in Advertising to IML would be classified a hater. Truth in Advertising's been tough onto the direct sales industry, but heck, they're tough on everybody. I mean, they were tough on USA Today. So I mean, they don't leave anybody out. They're fair and balanced on who they go after. But in this case, their frustration, if you will, or their attack, however you want to look at it, is on IML because of the trust that's been broken there. It's because they've got these lifestyle claims and these income claims and all of these claims, even though the policies and procedures say you can't do that, even though the claims that are out there don't even support what the income disclosure statement says that's on the website. And I bring them up because this is public information. You can go to Truth in Advertising, look up IML, that you're going to see it. It doesn't matter what type of facade that we put on the outside. If we are not addressing what the haters are saying in a straightforward, no spin manner, then it doesn't matter how much lipstick you put on the pig, it's still going to be a pig. The people at IML that are in the field are just great folks. But they are allowed, because leadership rolls downhill, they're allowed to say and do whatever they want to do. There's no repercussion. And in my comment over on the IML side, I made it very clear that I terminated iMarkets Live as a client in February. I have nothing to do with any of the stuff any longer. But again, I think their new marketing, their new branding, solid stuff. But that's just the front end. If you don't have the integrity behind it, if you're not going to do what's hard to do and say, look, guys, we can't do this anymore. We got to run our business right. We got to run our business clean. Otherwise, what looks like haters causes regulatory people to get involved, and we don't want to see that happen. So you've got to look at that. You've got to address your haters, no matter if it's business or personal. Look at what's important. I'll use me again as an example. I want to drive this home. This is important to me, and then we're going to go on to 3, 4, and 5, and I'm going to let you guys go for the weekend. In 2012. One of my biggest clients at the time also became one of the world's largest Ponzi schemes based on the people that were involved. I was working alongside some great attorneys, some great payment processors, some great advisors, some pretty good compensation guys. But this company was running something that totally exploded and blew up. They had addressed it. They had been talked to about it. But I was front and center as the public relations firm that was out there doing their thing. I consulted with them on several other areas too, but people saw me as a voice because I was talking through the situation. It wasn't a pretty situation. We never sugarcoated what that situation was. We made it very clear. Customer service sucks. They're not following through on commitments. There's major issues here. There's 5 different industries in which they could get hit with regulators. I mean, we went through all that stuff. Things were looking like it was going to get cleaned up. And then Securities and Exchange Commission came in, shut them down, took control. And the next thing you know, I'm looking at a subpoena from Washington, D.C. Not even from the receiver that took over the company, but directly from Washington. We addressed it. We looked at it. I spent several hours with my attorney, Kevin Thompson, in depositions. Really was freaking concerned. I thought, man, I've just blown my whole career. Here I am, trying to clean up a company. Company went south. Later, we find out that the ownership and the leadership there lied to many of us about what was going on. So that was a problem. You guys have heard me say in the past, Richard Brooke, who's my personal mentor, said, Troy, you were too close to the forest to see the trees. You need to stop this crap. He gets on to me. Long story short, a year later, as I'm working in one of the largest events, you see it right here, the Catalyst Conference, 13,000 people in attendance, press release comes out, Troy Dooley settles with the Securities and Exchange Commission, and then the haters went wild. Dooley pimps company, Dooley does this, da-da-da, you can't trust, yada, yada, yada. Voice of MLM lies, all this stuff. I waited 24 hours. And then we went on to every hater's website. And I personally addressed the biggest concerns. I looked at the number one trending critic haters website that there was out there. And then I went over and we used some really good SEO, utilizing the taglines that he had, utilizing his keywords, utilizing the title of his report, so that we could actually draw those folks to the truth and to the facts. And those are two different things. The critics were talking about the facts, but the facts were out of context. And instead of me saying, I'm innocent, I apologized for my shortcomings, for splitting hairs. And then I showed the actual settlement from the SEC. Because the settlement and the words of the SEC are what I signed off on and said, yes, I agree to the cease and desist. You have to address the critics in a professional manner. Apple does this, Starbucks does this, Walmart does this, every major brand out there does this, but they control the property in which it's done. They'll go on to the critics' websites and they'll respond, but they link back to the hub of their business. If you want to build trust in a post-trust era, don't use these old tactics of being silent, of hoping that it's going to go away, of pretending that nothing happened, because that's not what's going to happen. Pillar number 3 is connection, okay? if you want to connect with people, you've got to know what you stand for. It's not just about the brand, it's about what the brand is doing, what you are doing as the personal brand to change people's lives. If you look at the Unstoppable brand, I told you I was on their show this week. Freedom is one of their pillars. They sold all of their personal belongings years ago, about 8-9 years ago, and said, we're going to live a simple life and a true life, and we're going to show other people that you can live the dream and make it a reality. It just doesn't have to be something far off. They got rid of the big homes and the gated communities, the fancy cars. They do have a nice RV they're traveling around on their tour with right now. But what happens is they've been able to take their baby girl from almost the time she was 1 year old till now that she's 11. She has traveled to some of the most exotic places in the world. She's been enrolled in school in those places to learn the cultures of those places. And they're doing something that most people only dream of. David and Candy Strahan, good friends of mine up here in the South. Great family. They just did the same. Troy, we're selling it all. We're going on the road. We're going to raise our kids the way we want to raise, building that family. I don't care what your dream is. In this case, their number one pillar underneath what they stand for was freedom, and they're living it. You have to live it out. So freedom was one of them. The second one for them was family. They wanted to build their whole message around freedom and family. That was big to them. And their third pillar in there, I'm gonna put the word relationships, but it really is caring. They want to give back. They give back to every community that they're in. They give back to the people that's in their tribe. That's just what they do. If you want to build trust, you've got to connect with the people that you want to connect with. They've got to know what you stand for, where you're going, how you want to build this out. That's just a plus. You've got to know what your master narrative is. Those three pillars are going to build that master narrative. Unstoppable. I'm going to use them again because I just did the review for their deal. Creating life one day at a time. They create life, they live it, but they do it one day at a time. Because they know that that's what we have in front of us. We've got just today. We don't know what tomorrow's going to be. So they're giving everything they can to their people, everything they can to each other, everything they can to their baby girl. And that shows in how their brand has grown, how they've been on ABC, NBC, Fox News. They've been in Entrepreneur Magazine, Huffington Post. People are talking about them because they're building trust and living that brand. You can too. What you have to do is realize we're in a post-trust era. Today isn't like the old days. People aren't going to believe the spin. You can't say, well, this is the truth. This is the facts. Well, the facts as we know them said that in the 60s and early 70s, if you smoked cigarettes, you'd lose weight. The fact is that is true because when you stop smoking, you start eating more and you get fat because you go from one addiction to the next. See, the truth of the matter is cigarettes can give you cancer. And now we know that. A few years ago, we all started using plastic because if we use paper bags, we're going to mess up the ecology that's out there because we're killing off the trees. The truth of the matter is we can grow more trees. Plastic doesn't dissolve. It kills animals. It kills fish. It kills everything. See how this changes? Know what you stand for. Have those three strong pillars and then build your master narrative around that one thing and then drive that home and connect with your people. That's what you have to do. Pillar number 4 is tying this all up into your story. People want to know who you are and what you are. They don't want to just see all the lipstick. They don't want to see your hair all made up. They don't want to see the 6-inch stilettos or the big fat Gucci watches. Oh, Troy, you don't know what you're talking about, man. I see this on the internet. These millennials, they want to see all that stuff. No, they don't. They just want to know that you're real. And here's how you know this. Even though a lot of millennials will have a lot of followers and a lot of friends and a lot of all that good stuff, when you look at the millennials at the top of the game, their mentors are 10, 15, 20 years older than they are. They're not these little punk kids that are running around with all this stuff. They're not these little girls with their butts hanging out everywhere. See, that's the secret that none of these guys want to tell you. A lot of you guys know a buddy of mine, and man, I tell you what, when it comes to overcoming and building back his trust, I think he's done a great job of it, and that's Alex Morton. When you look at just what Alex went through when he was younger, as a younger millennial till now, he's building a good brand. It's him, his family. They've got all kinds of ventures that they've done in their business model. But when you look at him and you say, Alex, who's your number one mentor ever? He doesn't say Grant Cardone. He doesn't say Troy Dooley. He doesn't say Christopher Terry. Here's what he says. Bob Proctor's taught me more than anybody else. Bob is probably maybe 5, 6 decades older than he is. He went to the best that he could find for that guidance that he needed. Everybody does. But see, you've got to know that story. You've got to know how you're going to do this. You've got to build this the way you're supposed to build it. You've got to make that story authentic and real. Don't try to be a poser anymore. Just be who you are. Knowing what your narrative is, knowing what your 3 pillars are, and you're going to take this home in a way that you never dreamed that you could take it home. Last one, I'm going to let you go, is ownership. This isn't going to be overnight. You're not going to say, golly, man, that Dooley dude, he knew what he was talking about. Ugly as everything, bald-headed, looks weird, talks weird. That isn't what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you got to put this into practice. You got to take ownership of it. It's what we call trust in training. You're going to make mistakes. It's easy for me to get on a camera, stand in front of a room of thousands of people. But where you actually see if what I talk about is real is on Main Street in my local community. Am I building trust with my people that I hang out with? Am I building trust with my friends? Am I building trust with my family? Does my wife trust me? See, for me personally, that is what drives me every day. I want to make sure my wife trusts me no matter what. I want to make sure my kids can trust me no matter what. I want to make sure my friends can trust me no matter what. I had a situation this week where I have a real good friend who was a client. And we went out to lunch because we've all been running around for a while. I hadn't even seen if he'd paid retainers or anything. And he came in and he sat down in front of me and he said, Troy, this just ain't working out, man. My expectations of what you could deliver was higher. That's just truth. It's like, okay, I'm in. Well, what do we do from now? We don't do anything. We just cancel this agreement and we roll forward. The reason being is I know who and what I am, and I want to build trust with people, not cause them to feel uncomfortable because Troy, you didn't deliver it. Well, yes, I did. I delivered. Man, it's all subjective. Trust isn't. Trust is a foundation in life, and if you don't have it, you can't be pointing your finger at everybody else. You got to own this crap. You've got to say, this is me. This is what I stand for. This is who I am. I'm still learning. I'm still making mistakes, but I'm going to move forward. And this is where it really comes into play, is trust in crisis. See, whether it was Vima, Advocare, Herbalife, iMarkets Live, Troy Dooley, BK Barreco, Alex Morton, list goes on and on. Trust in crisis is what separates the girls from the women, the boys from the men. When you're willing to drive it home and take full control and say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, that's when the sky is the limit. That's when people start following you. That's why there's so many great people out there doing great things. I'll pull one up here that isn't amazing. You take Jason Brown and Matt Rocha. They're over at IML, just great guys. They have these are young guys that have dug their way through so much crap in the direct sales industry that it's pathetic. But what they've done is they've always rose above the garbage that they're in and stayed true to themselves. I watched Jason the other day when we had these hurricanes hit. in the Bahamas. Man, he just put business aside and started driving to do something great in a time of crisis for these people. Now, see, when you're going through your own crisis or other people are going through crisis, and you see that and you live up to that and you say, look, I'm going to put my stuff aside and I'm going to help other people. You shift trust. It's no longer people perceiving something. It's because they see your actions. They know it. Because when you have trust in crisis, whether it's yours or someone else's, and you're standing firm and you're standing strong, sky's the limit on where you can go. So guys, I'm going to let you go. It's been a great weekend. We got more coming out next week. I hope Advocare, I mean, usually it's on Friday when the FTC releases some of this stuff, unless it's a major ongoing case. So I'm hoping by Friday we might have an update on that. But heck, man, we've all been waiting for months to get something from the FTC on that one. So I don't know what's going to happen. But here's what I do know. You need to stay humble. You need to stay strong. And you need to go out there and build a trust foundation if you're going to build that business on Main Street. That's the key. Hey, folks, you've been listening to The Voice in Main Street America. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.